Last time I reviewed something from the Caledonia Works arsenal, or anything in TS Classic for that matter, the subject was a tiny 040 saddle tank from the Southeastern and Chatham Railway. In the time since that video, I went on holiday to the Wairarapa region and Hutt Valley, near Wellington, but I've been back at home for at least a week now, and I'm ready to get back to TS videos. This time, the topic is a 460 tender engine that's much larger than the previously mentioned 040. The Caledonian Railway 903 class may be one of my favourite Scottish steam locomotives, but I will try not to let that cloud my judgment of this add-on. As always, this video is not sponsored by the developer. But first, a brief history of the 903 class. This locomotive was designed by John F. McIntosh as an improvement on the 49 class of 1903, with 6 examples of the improved design built at Glasgow St Rollick's Works in 1906. The 903s were also known as the Cardean class after the class leader, number 903 herself, was named Cardean after a country estate belonging to one of the railway's directors. These engines were used to haul top-link express passenger trains between Carlisle and Glasgow, a section of the West Coast Mainline that often required trains to be double-headed. The Cardeans may have been famous back in their day, but their performance was unremarkable, even after the addition of Schmidt superheaters and new cylinders in 1911. McIntosh never designed another large 460 for passenger service after the 903 class, and although his successor, William Pickersgill, tried his hand at the concept with the 60 class of 1916 and the 956 class of 1921, neither of those classes were particularly successful. Thinking back to the 903 class, all but one of them survived into London, Midland and Scottish Railway ownership in 1923, but they were soon superseded by the Royal Scot 460s of 1927. The final member of the 903 class to be withdrawn was 14752, formerly 903 herself, going in December 1930. 907 was the only Cardean to not see the LMS, as she was damaged beyond repair in the Quinton Sill rail disaster of May 1915. The Cardean is one of CW's oldest add-ons, having been released in August 2018, which makes the pack 7 years old at the time of this video's production. As of early January 2026, you can still buy this locomotive on CW's website for £15, or $34.54 NZD, at full price. Because I've gotten so well accustomed to the newer CW products, the absence of newer / more advanced features on the older engines still throws me off a little bit. As for what the Cardeans do have, their features include, but are not limited to, dynamic smoke particles, animated rod in the Westinghouse air pump, animated reverser rod, numerous cab camera views, although there aren't as many on the Cardean as there are on newer CW locomotives, and fully animated Stephenson valve gear inside the frames. Performance mode has been a staple feature of CW products ever since the original version of Caledonian Railway No. 123, although the Cardean doesn't have low and max settings because they hadn't been invented yet in 2018. I seem to recall the Great Eastern Railway L77 being the first CW locomotive to have low and max settings on performance mode, but I could be wrong. This pack includes all the liveries that would have been worn by the 903 class throughout their lives. The selection is as follows: Caledonian Railway Photographic Grey, CR Dark Blue, CR Light Blue with or without superheating, LMS pre-1927 Crimson Lake, and LMS post-1927 Lined Black. No British Railways liveries are included because, as mentioned earlier, the Cardeans had all been withdrawn by 1930, so they never got to wear BR liveries. I don't know much about how texturing is done, but even then, I can still tell that those on the 903 class are distinctly different from newer models. For comparison, here's the 55 class, another 460 from the Caledonian Railway, and one that came to TS in March 2025, but in real life, the 55s were built before the Cardeans. Incidentally, I sometimes refer to the 55s as mini Cardeans because that's what they look like to me. As for the Cardeans in-game audio, I found an old post on CW's Facebook page that said the sounds were mostly recorded from the preserved B12 number 8572 at the North Norfolk Railway. I think it's an acceptable compromise to use B12 audio on a Cardean, since these are both inside cylinder 460s. Meanwhile, the Cardean's normal whistle uses audio recorded from the preserved 812 class 060 number 828. Curiously, the pack includes a variant of 903 Cardean herself that's fitted with a steamboat whistle. I have no idea where it was recorded from, or why the real 903 got a steamboat whistle in the first place, but regardless, what you hear in-game is the same whistle sound that's used on a certain 482 tender engine. As an aside, the old Just Trains North Norfolk Railway has been one of my go-to routes for a year or so at this point, and more recently, I saw that a new freeware version of the NNR has been released, having been developed by Slowline Simulations and Steam Sounds Supreme. Initially, the only major requirement I was lacking was the Stainmore, Shap and Eden Valley route from SSS, but then, just before going on holiday to Masterton and the Hutt Valley, I saw that Chris gifted me the Stainmore route, and for that I am most thankful, although it took me a while to realise that I wasn't dreaming. First the generous gift of all the CW gubbins that I didn't already own, and now Stainmore and the Buchan line. In the words of Tom Tipper the postman, whatever will happen next. Driving the Cardean, or any locomotives from CW's older Caledonian packs, for that matter, takes a bit of getting used to, in the sense that the ideal regulator and reverser settings for the engine to achieve her best performance, as opposed to her Mickey, are a bit different from normal. In this case, you can leave the regulator set to around 58 or 50%, then control the speed with the reverser, as bizarre as that may sound. The manual provides a more in-depth guide on how to drive the Cardean. Alternatively, you can see a demonstration of the technique in my video on the Caledonian Railway 721 class, published in February 2025. According to the manual, You should keep the fire mass between 60% and 70%, as marked on the F4 heads-up display, while you shouldn't let the water level fall below 80%. Despite their imposing size, the Cardeans were only given a power rating of 4p by the LMS. As such, I didn't want to try my luck on a really long passenger train, so I just settled for a quintet of Cali 45-foot non-corridor coaches. On this test run from East Riggs to Dumfries, I got locomotive number 907 up to an absolute top speed of 90 miles per hour, while maintaining the regulator, reverser, fire mass and water level at the ideal levels. This locomotive turned out to be much faster than I was expecting. Even with the fire mass only at around 48 to 55%, I've found that the Cardean steams quite well on level track. Perhaps too well, since the safety valves were constantly blowing off. Depending on the length and weight of her train, the locomotive may struggle to accelerate on hills steeper than 1 in 100. I thought this one wasn't particularly thirsty, and with a water capacity of 6,000 gallons, she could manage a fairly long run, though I'm not sure exactly how long. As I recall saying for the 492 class 080 tank and 191 class 460 tender engine, I think the 903 class could do with a remaster done to the same standard as the newer CW packs, as in ones that use Locomotion 2.0 scripting. And while I would still recommend the Cardean to other TS Classic players who like Scottish steamers, and those who are just starting out with steamers in general, I would also recommend following CW's Facebook page for news of a sale whenever one takes place. As for where I'd rate the big 460 in her current state, I'll give her a 6.3 out of 10. Meanwhile, my next planned review subjects in TS Classic are the LMS Stania 4P 264 tank engine and LNER J36 class 060 tender engine.